Smoke. OVS. Old Virginia Smoke. Old Virginia.
This podcast is brought to you by the Kansas City Barbecue Store, the official provider of barbecue supplies to listeners of Pitmaster. It's fall, it's football season, and holidays are right around the bend. That doesn't mean that the grilling and smoking stops. From smokers and fuel to rubs and sauces, the Kansas City Barbecue Store has everything and anything you could want. Make the Kansas City Barbecue Store your one-stop shop for all your outdoor cooking needs. As a listener of the Old Virginia Smoke Pitmaster podcast, you can get 10% off of your order this fall by using the code PITPOD, PITPOD, for online orders at www.thekansascitybbqstore.com. So keep on smoking, folks. Welcome to another edition of Pitmaster, an Old Virginia Smoke podcast. My name is Luke Darnell, Pitmaster of Old Virginia Smoke and host of this show. And we have a very cool episode for you this week. And also, I'll go ahead and just briefly apologize for some audio because we are on the road. And this is early in the morning and people are sleeping. So I am being forced to record in a garage, talking into a plant. So, with that being said, it's my honor to introduce all of you to the producer and one of my best friends, Christopher Sedenka. Chris is a radio DJ out of Portland, Maine. He's been a sports broadcaster for most of his career, but now he spins some classic rock and does a fantastic job. I listen to the show regularly down here in Virginia, and he is going to conduct the Pitmaster interview with me. So, thanks. How are you this morning, bud?
I'm doing great, man. I'm doing great. Thank you so much for the kind introduction. This is exciting. I feel like we've all been waiting to hear you answer these questions that you've been peppering at people for a few years now.
Well, it's funny because this podcast wouldn't exist if it wasn't for you, not only in your technical ability, but also you pushing me to do this. And
Well, sure. Yeah.
to think that we've made it. I asked you the other day, I said, man, can you believe that we've gotten to 100 episodes? And you were like, it doesn't feel like it's been 100 episodes. And I'm like, man, you're kind of right. It doesn't.
No, it doesn't. It's interesting, how it's gone and how quickly time obviously goes by. But yeah, I feel like you just got in a groove, and not only that, but a huge thank you to everyone who's come on and has taken, who has allowed you to kind of take some time away from their busy schedule to get their techniques and certainly to have so many people sharing a lot of stuff that maybe they never have before. It's pretty cool. Great community, man.
Yeah, the number one thing that people talk about, I ask the question, what's the most important thing for you to come out of barbecue? And everybody always says the people. And it's a fantastic answer because it's extremely accurate. I started this whole barbecue journey and we didn't really know anybody. And now I have friends literally around the world. And I woke up this morning with a message from New Zealand and a guy that's coming over here to cook in the spring. And what's up, man? And I will, trying to help him out with getting product and stuff. And it's just cool to know like that I can literally go pretty much anywhere in the world. And I'm going to find barbecue people that I know and that are fans of the show. And that's spectacular to me.
How much of this world has changed over the last 20 years or so, or however long you've been in it?
This will be coming up in 2023. It'll be our 11th year.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
It does feel like 20 sometimes because it is a lot of work. A lot of things have changed, man. A lot of people have come and gone. People have left and people have come back. People have passed away. And it's been kind of a 10-year roller coaster ride, really. And but there's people that have been around that whole time and people who are in this for the long haul. And we always said that we would be. This is something that Kim and I do and spend time together. And then we get to travel the country and meet different people, see different things. There are so many things in this country that I would never have seen or been to had it not been for barbecue. And so many people that I've met and opportunities. And, one of the coolest things that's ever happened to me was cooking the Big 12 Big Q event in Kansas City for the Big 12 basketball tournament and seeing the voice of the Mountaineers, Tony Caridi, on the street and realizing that's somebody I've been listening to my whole life in terms of WVU sports. Now, granted, I did reach out on the street that day and called him by the wrong name and I said, "Hey, Hoppy." And he thought that was hilarious because I thought he was the other person who does WVU sports. But that's a relationship I've had now for 7 years and gotten to cook for him and cook for his friends. And we're doing an event here in the beginning of January, and it's just opened a lot of doors. And barbecue has done that for us. And I guess back to your original thing, the people have changed, but they haven't changed that much. There's a lot of other things that have changed in barbecue. The contests have died off because of COVID. The judging changes from year to year. You have to be able to adapt, and some people aren't built for that. We luckily are. So it's been a fun ride.
Yeah, you mentioned COVID and we're what essentially 2+ years away from when everything shut down. You've had two, well, now 3 summers if you think about it, from 2021 and 22, I should say. Where does barbecue stand essentially 3 summers out now of COVID?
Through our 10 years, we've seen that barbecue goes through peaks and valleys, just like everything does. We
Yeah.
started in the beginning. Barbecue was at a giant peak. Barbecue Pitmasters had come out, and everybody was wanting to get into it. Everybody was coming out to watch contests, even though there's not much to see. And now we're in a valley. Uh, COVID, number one, took away a lot of contests. Nobody was allowed to have events. Nobody was allowed to do anything. So a lot of contests went away. People didn't have barbecue contests. And then they realized, oh, look, we don't have to do this contest to be successful in what we're doing, or they're just not successful and they went away. So contests went away. People found other things to do during COVID. They were forced to spend time with their families and friends, close friends and whatever. And so they found that barbecue wasn't necessary in their life for whatever reason. Or they took up a different hobby because you could do that hobby during COVID. We were very fortunate well, let me rephrase that. We had started our barbecue business in January of 2022, or January of 2000, or 2020. Jesus.
There we
January of
go.
20, January of 2020, 3 months before COVID. And so we really had to focus on that in the beginning, but also we just found opportunities to go and cook contests that somehow found a way to still happen. We were very fortunate to get invited to go cook a barbecue pay-per-view event of all things
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
in the middle of Ohio, it ended up being kind of a bust, and none of the teams really got much out of it. There was a lot of problems with the production, but still eternally grateful for it because we got to go see our barbecue friends and cook a contest in the middle of nowhere, and that just kept pushing us. And now I think you're starting to see barbecue. I think the dip might be on its way out, and barbecue might be on the rise again. There's been some changes with the Kansas City Barbecue Society, most notably my good friend Rod Gray taking over as the CEO. He's a cook. I think he's going to have a lot of great things to do and a lot of great things to say about competition barbecue and really try and grow the hobby. I think you're seeing barbecue coming back on television again. Michael Simon's doing a great job with Barbecue USA. You got the American Barbecue Showdown on Netflix, Barbecue Brawl on Food Network. There's just barbecue is moving back into the forefront on the food entertainment scene, and that's generally a good sign, and it's also a good indicator that people are going to start getting involved again. So, with that being said, we're always looking for new people to come out and cook and learn new things and keep the hobby going.
Well, that's kind of the direction I want to take this in now, and that's getting more people involved. And it's a, you ask a lot of questions to a lot of pitmasters this year about all kinds of different things, from rituals to hobbies, and I'm sure we'll get to all of this kind of stuff. But let's start with kind of another question. You said, what advice would you give to young pitmasters? How do you make sure a pitmaster doesn't come in and, or a backyard guy, try once or twice and get completely alienated from the entire situation? How do you make sure that doesn't happen and to keep them motivated?
Barbecue, you asked an original question about how has barbecue changed. And the biggest change has been the availability of information. When we started, you had to hunt through message boards and different sites and everything to try and figure out trends and figure out ingredients and tricks. And then you could, if you were lucky, you could go take a barbecue class. And I was lucky that I found out that these things existed pretty early on. Now, 10 years later, you have the Barbecue League, which has videos for basically every category. You can go see what world champions are doing. We have a video up there with chicken. There's a bunch of different videos for every meat. So your learning curve is dramatically changed from when we started. The best way that we could do it at the time was to make friends with people, go sit around a campfire, shut the fuck up and listen and pay attention to what's going on. And you would be surprised the little nuggets that you could take away from people talking with their peers and sharing information. And then you're just on the sideline sitting there smiling, playing the guitar, to having a bourbon drink, but writing everything down in your brain that you're hearing to help you. Now, it creates a trap because you're at a contest, you hear this, you're like, oh, I want to try that. You don't ever try something like that at a contest. You got to practice. That's the other key. Number one is getting the information. There's so much information out there available. There's so many classes available now. Absolutely do that before you jump into the competition world. We had a competition class a couple of weeks ago. We had 4 people who had never cooked a contest before, and that was encouraging. And then the other thing is practice. After my first class that I took in 2013, I practiced every weekend for 3 months in the winter because I wanted to learn how my pits would do with those recipes, and I wanted to be great at this. And it just takes that kind of work and that kind of effort. Are there stories of people out there going and watching a video and winning a contest? Yeah, but that's not the rule, and that's not the standard. It takes a lot of work and a lot of practice, and to cook something perfect, you got to cook it a million times and get after it.
You mentioned the campfires and the stories and the advice. What is the best advice you ever received at a campfire?
Oh man, that's a great question. Probably the best advice I received at a campfire was that exact advice. Somebody pulled me aside and said, just pay attention and listen and be nice and shut up. And you'll learn more from this
Hmm.
night than you will. That's literally happened. That happened at our first contest for Old Virginia Smoke. Somebody pulled me aside and said, I don't know you, but you're surrounded by 10 of the best cooks in the area. And, just listen and you'll pick up a lot. They knew it was our first contest. So. And all those people are still lifelong friends. Jerry Dyer, Smoking Misfits, Mike Richter from Chicks, Wine and Bovine, Mike Palmer from New Revolution Q. They're family now. And we learned so much from them in the beginning. That's probably the best piece of advice I ever got about a campfire at a campfire.
All right, so you're like the most gregarious and fun and loving person that's ever going to be at one of these sites. So what if you're the introvert who just is really trying to do something? Maybe you don't talk as much to other folks. Is there still a community and a warming, kind of situation for maybe folks with a different type of personality?
Absolutely. It's once you're in the community, you're in the community, and how you engage with it, that's on your own terms. There's lots of people in the community that love to keep to themselves and they don't talk a lot and they just want to stay in their zone and do their thing. And I'll even reference a couple of them because they've become really good friends of mine. Now, part of this goes back to what you said about me and my personality, and Kim calls it my superpower. But three of my best friends are they kind of keep to themselves. And John and Stephanie from Chunky, we were cooking with them. Nobody really knew them. They kept kicking the shit out of us. And I told Kim at a contest in Currituck, North Carolina, I'm going to make them my friends. And I did. And the other two are Danny and James from Top Gun. They're always on a very tight schedule and can't come early or stay late because of family and jobs. But I've really made it a point to spend time with them because they're great people and they're entertaining. They have a ton of knowledge. They're a lot of fun to be around, and they're just salt of the earth, all four of them. And there's a place for everybody in barbecue. Now, a lot of people will say, "Oh, barbecue family is great," and my friend Melissa Cookson, I made that comment to her the first time we met her, and she said, "You might want to revise that. 90% of the barbecue family is great. There's a 10% that," and I feel like it's that way with any hobby.
That's
And
absolutely. Yeah.
and maybe it's because I'm getting older and I'm a touch of a curmudgeon, and I find myself more and more being like, Jesus, man, come on, what are you doing? Um, and Kim tells me all the time, like, you're turning into kind of an old person asshole sometimes. So I'm trying, I'm trying to work on that a little bit.
All right. I'm going to ask the question now.
Oh, sounds like
You
you've had
ready?
something. Sounds like you've had something pent up.
No, not at all. We've all been waiting for this. What habits, rituals, routines have you established for yourself during the competitions? I'll say I know a few of them. I've witnessed a few of them.
Yeah, that's true. You've cooked with me how many times now? Three, I think.
Oh,
Two harpoons and the
at
other
least
main one.
three.
At least three.
Two harpoons and two main ones and a Rochester one.
That's right. I forgot about the
Yeah,
Rochester one. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. I have a lot of shit, man. Um, I guess the first thing to start with would be the red flag. You know those when you see like a tractor trailer going down the street or going down the highway and they have the red like flags hanging off the back or off the sides to
Yeah.
indicate where, yeah. So our second contest ever, we cooked in Winchester, Virginia. We had done well in our first one. We didn't get any calls. Calls are top tens, but we felt encouraged. So we went to Winchester and we cooked, and I might have been a little bit overconfident, and we ended up getting the shit kicked out of us. So I kind of half-had, and we were cooking out of the back of a pickup at that time. So I haphazardly put everything back into the pickup. I didn't think I needed to strap down the lids of my Weber Smoky Mountains because it wasn't a long drive. And we're driving down the highway, and I'm pissed off, and it's raining, and it's windy. And I look back, and I see one of the lids of my cookers fly off. on the interstate.
Oof.
And I'm like, oh my God. So I pull over. Thank God nobody got hurt. And I trudge back up the highway to get this thing out of the median. Now it's pouring. It's absolutely pouring rain. I'm soaked. I'm putting myself in danger for this lid of this cooker. It's so stupid. And I end up getting back to the truck, getting the lid on, bending it, putting it back on, strapping it down. And then I'm stripping off all these wet clothes right on the side of the highway. Barbecue teams are driving by, honking. And so I look in the ditch and there's this one of those red flags. And I went and picked it up, and Kim goes, "What are you doing?" I was like, "I'm taking this flag as a reminder to always make sure your shit is strapped down." So that flag gets put out of the back of our trailer and has been with us for every contest since. That's one. Uh, Number two, let's see, clothing is a huge deal. I have to have my blue bandana, navy blue bandanas, that I wear around my head, either pirate style or just as like a headband. I have to have my red, white, and blue Blues Hog wristbands. Uh, those serve actually a purpose. They protect my wrist when I'm going into the drum or to the jambo from burning myself, which I've done a few times. I always generally have on a pair of WVU basketball shorts when I cook,
Hmm.
and that's just because that's my clothing of choice to represent my school and my state. And I don't have any West Virginia shirts. All I have is West Virginia pants, which is really strange. And then we can underwear. Underwear is a big deal. I have over 110 pair of MeUndies underwear. It's a subscription service, and I just love them. They're life changing. If you've never worn them, there's no sweating. There's no, you don't create a rice cooker situation down there. And they're just amazing. And they have really fun prints. So I have six pairs that can be worn at competition, all six of one. Let's see if I can remember them. Okay. There's the Fruit Loops, which is one of my nicknames for Kim is Loop Loop, which is short for Guadalupe. It makes no sense whatsoever. But if I wear my Fruit Loops, that's because I'm thinking about Kim. There's ones with bananas that one of Kim's favorite movie lines is from, oh my gosh, what's the British spy movie that came out with Taron Egerton?
Oh, the Kingsman?
The Kingsman, where his fiance is she gets, I think it may be the second one. I don't know. Yeah, because he's engaged to the princess,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
she's like really stoned one night. And she goes, "Are you the banana man?" So
yeah.
the bananas get worn all the time. Uh, I won the the Morgantown contest wearing my Sagittarius star sign underwear, so those are lucky. And then there's the pink donuts. The pink donuts, they're the oldest pair that I have. And I wore those when I won the 2016 World Food Championships. So, and they're getting a little
Getting a little
haggard.
worn.
I don't wear them very often, only if it's something, if I feel like I really need that extra push. And then, of course, there's the sloths doing yoga, which is my Sunday contest underwear. They're extremely lucky. We won chicken with those at the American Royal. My friend Darren also wears his yoga sloths on big contests on Sundays, and you know the yoga sloths are very important. So there's those. There
Uh,
is. I'm gonna keep going, man. I'm gonna let it all out. I'm just gonna let it go.
all right.
There's a keychain in our that hangs on our key rack in the trailer that my friend Jenny Mitchell gave us, which is a pair of, it's like a soft plushy thing, but they're lederhosen.
Yep.
and if you push the crotch, it goes yodeling.
Oh
So
my God.
I have to do that every contest. I have to press that. Um,
Jeez.
I'm sure there's more. And then we
Yeah.
can get into mute. I mean, the music question is the same thing.
Well, the music question would be next. So, and you've talked about the music a little bit with people who have come on, but it's a great eclectic mix.
It's fantastic, man. And we added some new shit yesterday. You know, we're down in Savannah, Georgia for a week, and we had a long road trip. So Kim and I will go and listen to like newer music and see if there's things we want to add. Which we don't add a lot because new music is generally horrible, especially new
Mm,
hip hop music. We're hip hop people, and
yep.
you know, new hip hop and this whatever you call it, trap music. You know, it's fucking terrible. Um, but there are things that we put on there. We also have individual playlists for each meat. So, you know, like there's 5 songs for chicken, 5 songs for ribs, 5 songs for pork, 5 songs for brisket. And we'll switch those around a lot. And, or not a lot, but if something brings you back a good memory of when you did really well at a contest and it just fills you up with joy, I will do anything to recreate that feeling because it gives me confidence whenever I go into the cook. So when it's time to start getting chicken ready, man. Notorious B.I.G. Juicy comes on. It's go time, brother. It's time to hit it. This podcast is brought to you by BarbecueData.com. BarbecueData.com is your one-stop shop for all of your barbecue competition data. Historical data, calls, wins, placements, everything under one roof. It's a great way not only to track yourself in the standings, but also to track how you improve your scores from year to year. Listeners of this podcast can receive 20% off of a new subscription to BarbecueData.com with the code PITPOD. That's one word, all capital letters, PITPOD, PITPOD. So check your team scores, check on others, and do it all on BarbecueData.com.
What do you think the biggest turning point has been since you
For
started?
for Old Virginia Smoke,
Yeah.
I want to say that it was the 2000. Yeah, what year was that? 2015 National Barbecue Cup in Cumming, Georgia. We had been doing well, and we had a really good year that year, and we decided to go down to Georgia and cook this contest at the end of the year. And we get there, and in the Kansas City Barbecue Society, it was one of the last events that would give you points for Team of the Year. And so all of the big hitters from all around the country were down there. Most of them were. One that wasn't, I don't think Travis came. Travis was cooking somewhere else. Travis Clark with Clark Crew. He was in the lead and he had a double contest, I think, closer to home. So he didn't come down. And this is actually kind of how I met Travis. So we get there and we're kind of dumbstruck, you know, looking around at all these barbecue superstars and like, yeah, this will be fun, you know. And our friend Rick Hamilton came down. At that time, it was the first time that he said he called me up out of the blue and said, "I'd like to come cook with you." And we had no idea why or anything. So he drove down to Georgia and he did all the dishes and tasted the food, and we had a really good cook. You know, it turns out that the two organizers had to, after the judging was done, they drove around to come and find out who this team had won, who they were, because they didn't know who Old Virginia Smoke was. They'd never heard of us. And it was a really cool award ceremony. And we 180 brisket that day. I think that was our first brisket 180. And I just remember being up there on that stage, and they called Andrew Rasmussen for RGC, and Kim and I were just like, "Holy shit!" You know. And then we had all these massive trophies that we had to get back to the car, and I'm sitting there by myself. I mean, these were all world wood carved pigs with a chainsaw. They all weighed probably 75, 80 pounds. So I'm sitting there and I'm like, I'm by myself. Everyone's left. Kim's gone back to the truck to get the truck so we can load these things in. I'm just sitting there by myself going, you just did something pretty cool. And got a message from Travis, who would go on to win Team of the Year that year, and said, thanks for stopping all those guys down there. Not sure who you are, but good job.
That's a good point. Yeah, you helped him out.
Yeah. And that was the beginning of a lot of things. People knew who we were then. Rick had started cooking with us. He now cooks with us regularly and always comes to all our classes and helps. He's become one of my best friends. And yeah, that contest has to be pretty much the one that really changed things for us.
Now, Luke, we've talked a lot about successes, but what about failures? How has a failure during a competition set you up for later success? Do you have a favorite failure?
I hate you. You've been waiting for this one, haven't you? And the hard part about this one is that Kim will listen to this and I'll just watch her mood turn dark. We were in Galax, Virginia, and it was a Friday, and we had just made friends with this team called Serial Grillers. They're a Memphis Barbecue Network team out of Mississippi, I think, and they were sponsored by Dizzy Pig as we were at the time, and we were parked next to each other. We were having a great time, really too good of a time, and I forgot to put the chicken into the brine. So my solution in the morning when I woke up with a hangover was, it's fine, I'll just inject this brine into the chicken. So I did.
Mm.
We ended up getting three pretty high calls in ribs, pork, and brisket, and finished last in chicken and finished 11th overall. Had we
Oh
had,
man.
had we finished 15th overall, we would have won the contest.
Oh.
So it was after that contest that Kim came up with her Luke rules for a barbecue contest. There would be no more getting drunk on Fridays. I would be allowed 3 drinks on a Friday and no cheating or going and getting like a big gulp or whatever. Um,
Right.
3 drinks in bed by 9. Don't have to go to sleep, but you have to be in the rack by 9, and no drinks till after tournaments. And those rules have been in place and mostly followed. If she's not at a contest on a Friday, sometimes, I'll be an idiot. But I know my boundaries and know what I can do and still be successful. So yeah, that instituted what the little general's rules of engagement for me in a contest. So you could say that it's not a favorite thing of mine to even talk about because just puts her in a bad mood for the rest of the day. But yeah, that was a big change in our whole operating procedure.
um, we'll get to the purchase of $100 or less in a second, but
Mhm.
first, money. Let's not put a restriction on money. What gadget or what purchase has really been a benefit for you and something that you think is worth the investment?
I'm going to go with a blanket answer of cookers. And I would love to say that it was one specific cooker, but it's not. We started out on Weber Smoky Mountains, which I think is a great starter cooker. It's a great way to learn barbecue, a great way to learn competition barbecue. And where I'm going with this is I'm going to give you a timeline of everything that I've cooked on, but I think that all of those investments, sure, I could sit here and say, I wish I'd just saved my money and bought a Jambo offset in the beginning because that's what I cook on now. But I don't think that I would be as good of a cook as I am now had I not went through all this and started on Weber Smoky Mountains and then switched to Backwoods Cookers, which is a cabinet smoker with a water pan. And then switching from the Backwoods and going to an offset cooker to Jambo and then incorporating Gateway drums into that. It's a big sense of pride for me that I can cook a barbecue contest on any of those things. and I wouldn't have a problem doing it on any of those things. And I just think being finding a cooker that you love, finding a cooker that you know, and you're going to go through some money and you're going to buy different shit, and it's fine. You know, I wish I could say that I would just start with the one, but I don't think I would be as well rounded of a cook as I am had I done that.
All right,
Thank you for
let's
asking that
switch it up.
question. I've been wanting
No
to answer
problem.
that question for a long time.
Switching it over to the $100 or less question. What have you bought that has been a must buy or positively has impacted your barbecue career? And of course, you can't say Thermapen.
No, this is I just heard your cat, by the way.
Yeah, that was Tommy. He's saying hello.
Good morning, Thomas. So, wow. A lot of this is stuff that I've learned from other people and learned from this podcast. Really, it makes things better. The butter cutter. The butter cutter is a life changer. I love showing people the butter cutter. Showed people the butter cutter class. I think 8 people bought them right there on the spot on Amazon. And it's this thing's with these wires, and it slices a stick of butter perfectly, and you don't have to sit there with a knife and embarrass yourself like I did. The roll of freezer paper that we keep on the countertop that we pull out, put the freezer paper down, do whatever we're going to do on the counter, ball it up, throw it away. You just save so much time in cleanup. The wire racks the wire baking cooling racks that we cook our chicken on. A lot of people have moved to pizza screens. I love the wire chicken rack one. I don't want to use a pizza screen and throw it away every 2 cooks. The wire rack just really it keeps the chicken off the grate and it's just easy to move it around. I love that. My sprayer. A lot of people used to or do run an orange like gardening sprayer. I found a white one that I could put a blue sticker on. So that's everything. Everything like that is important to me. Colors are everything. Things got to be blue. It's the only reason I have a J3, a Jambo J3, is because Kim told me I couldn't buy one, and I told her it was blue, and she said buy it. Uh, Other things under $100, a really good Bluetooth speaker is your friend, especially if you love to cook with music. Don't buy a cheap one that's just going to fail if it gets wet or whatever. You can get very, very good equipment for under $100 that will keep your tunes going for you. The cotton gloves that you put under nitrile or under your nitrile gloves or your latex gloves that protect your hands allows you to touch anything and not burn yourself. The best tools that you have in your trailer are your hands, and you have to protect them. A lot of people reference knives. I think that we're
Yeah.
at the point where we all have pretty good knives. Some people still use an electric knife. Pansies, come on, get a knife, slice your meat. I say that with love to all you people that'll bitch at me about this later, but come on. We're supposed to be we're doing America's second art form next to the blues. We're cooking barbecue. This is something we need to do. But a good knife sharpening system is also important. Keeping your knives sharp, even if it's just to hone your knives before you use them. What else? There's got to be more. I'll think about it. But there's a lot of different things, man. Like it's so my favorite tool for cleaning out the firebox of the Jambo is an old license plate.
Really?
It just makes
Great
great
scraper?
great
Yeah.
scraping the ash out of there. You can get into the corners with it, and it's just extremely efficient, and I love it. And also my water pan that I run in the Jambo is just a little jelly roll sheet pan. It has a low profile. It doesn't disrupt the airflow of the cooker, and I love it. I keep one in every cooker that I have, and I keep one in my truck in case something happens.
All right, you've had a chance to talk to a lot of really cool people over the last few years. Some of them certainly were people that you've met recently. Others are people that you've known since kind of day one. And I'd imagine quite a few of them are some of the major mentors in your life as well. So, who has impacted your life the most when it comes to competition barbecue?
Man, we might need to split this up into two parts. There's so many people
Yeah.
that have just been amazing to me and extremely helpful to me in the beginning. Chris Hart from IQ taught my first class, and he really opened my eyes to a lot of tips and tricks and flavors and stuff that there was this whole world of competition barbecue that I didn't know about. Another person who opened up flavors and stuff like that for me was Chris Capel with Dizzy Pig. He taught my second class. Those two were in the beginning were very, very, very instrumental in my development. As we move forward, there's so many people, dude, that uh, Darren Worth with Iowa Smoky D's, who's taught me more about barbecue than I'll ever know. Taught me how to cook on the Jambo. It's taught me more about the barbecue business than anybody in the world. And he's an amazing person. He really is. And he's always there to answer any questions I have. Most recently, Joe Pierce, just with slaps, just one of my best friends. He's great to bounce stuff off of. He has a lot of great ideas, and he's on top of the game. He's just a genuinely one of the nicest people in barbecue. But he's also taught me a lot. Another person would be Tim Shear from Blue Song. Just just the way he approaches barbecue and the way he approaches flavors, and has really taught me a lot in terms of making sure that your meat scores immediately, and also to never give up on a piece of meat. That's something he said on this podcast, and something that I stole and said on television. But it's true. Don't ever give up. There's always something you can do to make it better, and that's something I learned from Timmy. And I mean, I could go on forever, dude.
Yeah.
The amount of people that have taught me, it's, and I try to give it back. I try and be there for others and be a mentor to others. So
Who are
it's
you most
important.
surprised that who are you most surprised that you were able to get on to the podcast to interview?
Johnny Trigg. I was like, how in the hell is this old man going to get on Zoom? Like, I don't know. Like, if this is going to work, so Zoom makes that easy. There's a one-click button that puts in all the codes and everything, and he got on there, and that was probably one of my favorite interviews I've ever done. Johnny and I have spent a lot of time together, and we're pretty good friends. I got to watch two basketball games with him in Kansas City, sitting right beside him, and man, I geeked out the whole time.
Hmm.
It was a lot of fun. He's so funny. He's so funny. He's so mean. It's all an act. He's the nicest guy in the world.
How do you relate to your gut feelings when you're cooking?
Man, you're diving deep in the question list.
Oh yeah.
That is something that I've started paying attention to a lot more. I started out being more of a process and timeline cook because once I learned from others what I needed to do, I wanted to stay true to that, not fuck it up, right? But then as you get better and as you cook more meat, you can sense when things are progressing differently. and you have to use all of your senses. This could be a smell coming from your pit. This could be when you put the thermopen into the piece of meat and you feel something and you're like, ooh, we're not, we shouldn't be here yet, but we are. So you have to listen to all of your senses, and I mean your eyes. If you see liquid starting to come out of the top of that brisket, it's pretty close to wrapping. If you see that your ribs are getting dry, maybe it's time to add the parquet. Your ears, hearing like something sizzling or just feeling the wind change. If you're cooking on an offset, you have to be cognizant of that. But I think one of those senses is also when something's rumbling in the pit of your stomach and it's like, hey, you should go check this, or you should spritz this, or you should think about pulling this or checking it. You need to do it. There's a reason that shit is happening, and you have to rely on everything. You can't just cook to a number. You have to rely on the feel and the smell and the taste, and all of that has to factor in, and you can't let it slip. You have to stay true to what you're feeling, what you're seeing, and what your gut tells you, and you'll be better off for
How do you learn to trust those instincts, though?
it. Repetition, my brother.
Yeah.
Repetition. You know this because you cook a lot on your trade crew, and true or false, the more you do it, the better your meat comes out, right?
Of course. Yeah.
And it's repetition. It's cooking chicken 1,000 times. It's cooking a meat every weekend during the off season and pulling it when you think it's done, but then pulling it at a higher temperature and seeing what the difference is. Pulling it at a lower temperature and seeing what the difference is. Cooking at a higher temperature and seeing if the texture changes. Moving the meat around in different places in the pit. It's all experience, and it's all practice, and it's all repetition. And you would be amazed at where you can put, for example, your brisket in an offset, and the difference in texture of the bite that you'll get. It's unbelievable. Now, I'm sure there's some sort of scientific thermodynamic answer to this, but I don't know. I'm not a scientist, I have an English degree. But experimenting with that stuff and figuring out what works best for what you're running in your program.
All right, I think this is a good place to stop because we have way more questions to go. We're like an hour in, and I mean, gosh, we're just peeling the first layer right now, my friend. So long way to go here. Let's call this part one. We'll give you part two after the holiday or after Christmas, and so we'll have extra Luke for Christmas.
Onions have layers, and so do ogres.
That's right.
Ogres have layers.
That's good, but no, thanks, man. Thank you for the role. It's been a lot of fun, and I will look forward to getting you ready to rock here tomorrow, or not tomorrow. Getting you ready to rock next week after Christmas.
Yes, sir. Part two, we'll do it.
Happy holidays, Merry Christmas, everybody. We'll talk to you.
Yes, everybody have a safe one.
Thank you for listening to Pitmaster, an Old Virginia Smoke podcast. Be sure to subscribe and like the podcast, rate the podcast, and to share it out with all your friends. Also, be sure to check out the Old Virginia Smoke YouTube channel as well. Tune in next week for another great episode of Pitmaster. For companies interested in advertising, please contact Old Virginia Smoke directly via www.oldvirginiasmoke.com. Pitmaster, an Old Virginia Smoke podcast, is edited by Chris Sedanka. Pitmaster, an Old Virginia Smoke podcast, is a property of Old Virginia Smoke, LLC. All rights reserved. Copyright 2022.
Old Virginia.